Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's get right into it. And why wait? Why wait to talk about Texas and Michigan at the end? Let's talk about it right now. Everyone's eyes are going to be on it. It's the game everyone's looking forward to. And if this game was played last year, it might be looking different. This year, Texas looks really strong and Michigan maybe not so much. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm thinking is that this is the new SEC podcast game of the week. Last week it was Texas A&M versus Notre Dame, and that definitely didn't disappoint. And for this game, Michigan fans can't help but look at the past. If I watched that when I watched that Fresno State game, I wasn't really too impressed necessarily from what I saw on the offensive side. But Michigan fans are probably still having that afterglow from a championship win, taking down an SEC team like Alabama and taking down Michael Penix. But for Texas, the story has to be a 52-0 win over Colorado State and what you saw on the offensive side. Quinn Ewers has continued to ascend at higher heights each year. And so he didn't really disappoint in week one with going for 260 yards, 20 for 27 and 3 touchdowns. The receiving corps was able to get a fair share of the rock dished around between Isaiah Bond getting a touchdown, transfer, and star player at Texas, Matthew Golden, getting 2 touchdowns and showing what he can do in front of the country with this now new national audience. And then on the running game, they were missing players, like CJ Baxter, but 2 of the running backs combined for over 100 yards, and Jarrett Gibson and Jaden Blue. And so there's a lot to be positive on from the offensive side. Hunter, when you think about Texas, what are some things that are important that you think are going to resonate for this game?
Yeah, I think Texas, you mentioned it, a lot of weapons, a lot of different people to go to. And this Michigan defense is stout. It's solid. Their question mark is on offense. But what Texas is going to be able to do, they're hoping is to pick apart this defense using the variety of weapons that they had. They would love to have CJ Baxter. They would love to have Christian Clark, but they're making do with what they have. We saw them get everyone involved against Colorado State last week. Michigan, the big question mark going into this game wasn't the defense. It was the offense. Who do we put at quarterback? Davis Warren gets that start. And between him and Donovan Edwards, there were some struggles last week against Fresno State. Davis Warren, 11 for 15 for 118. Donovan Edwards couldn't get it done. Khalil Mullins had to step in and kind of pick up that pace from the backfield. Michigan is probably going to look to slow the game down a little bit. Texas is going to look to pick the game speed up. I don't know if Michigan's strong defense is going to be able to slow down the Texas offense enough to keep the offense back off the field.
Absolutely. And, in Michigan's credit, this offense in Texas is probably the most explosive offense they've seen since last year with Washington, Alabama, and Ohio State. And of course, we saw what they were able to do against all those opponents. But I think last year, Michigan had more balance on the offensive side, just going off of game one. There was a struggle to kind of score on Fresno State. I think they only had about 10 points going into the second half. And Texas, looking at how they did last year and looking how they did week one, this is such an explosive offense, but you can't ignore the defense, right? Last game, they were able to force 2 turnovers, big interceptions from, Jahdae Barron on the Texas side. And also they were only allowed 11 first downs. And you talked about it with Donovan Edwards. He was such a big player last year alongside Blake Corum at running back. And now he's the main guy. Obviously, Mullings was able to step in and kind of carry that load, but they need a big game from him. 27 yards is not going to get it done like he did last week when it comes to setting the pace. And when you think about Sharon Moore football, first-year head coach at Michigan, hopefully we don't see any waterworks here. If they do end up pulling it out, I don't know if I want to see him cry again. But first-year head coach, his brand is pound the rock. You saw it last year when they played Penn State, ran the ball 40 times to win, and control the time of possession, right? But if you're going to have running performances like we saw last week, they're not going to have that opportunity because they're going to need to put the ball in the air more early and often if Texas is getting off to a fast start. And so that's kind of what I expect in this game, just going off of last week. Texas is coming in big here. The spread's 7.5. And so it'll be really interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. And not Texas A&M. We'll talk about them another time. Texas, their offense was firing. Michigan does have some pieces to slow that down. I mean, they have Mason Graham, they have Will Johnson, 2 of the best players in the country on the defensive side of the ball. Kenneth Grant also getting in there to add some extra pressure. Will Quinn Ewers be able to step up in the face of that pressure and deliver? Again, Will Johnson can only cover one guy. They lost Keon Saab to Alabama. We saw what a guy like that can do. So trying to replace that production on the defensive side of the ball is going to be tough. If they can slow down Quinn Ewers, we'll see. We'll see where it can go. Vegas is expecting a low-scoring game. I'm expecting a low-scoring game. I think it'll take a little while for Texas to find their footing against this defense. But 7.5-point favorites, I think they get it done by a little bit more than that. I got Texas by 13. I think maybe 30 to 17.
So it's a wide margin. This is the first time they've played since 2005. If you remember the Rose Bowl with Vince Young, one of the most eclectic quarterbacks to ever grace the field in college football. They edged it out 38-37. Different scenario, obviously a bowl game, but we can't underestimate, and I don't think people are, but you can't underestimate the power of playing in the big house. I mean, Drake says, right? Like, big as the what? Like, this is a massive venue. I think it holds about 107,000 people, and I think it's like 107,001. They have like one extra seat. It's gonna be electric going into a road environment. We'll definitely have these players fired up. I'm sure Michigan's gonna have a ton of pageantry and different, just things going on in between plays just to get the fans up and ready. I still have Texas winning here. I don't have them winning by 13 per se, but I do have them taking this game 31-21. I expect to see more from Davis Warren, and I think they'll also get their other quarterback involved since he's more mobile and can kind of maybe help spur that offense in a Denard Robinson type way for the Michigan listeners that may catch this preview.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that game. It's going to be a big one. It's going to kind of paint the picture for where these teams go when it looks at the college football playoff landscape. Both of these teams are hoping to make it, and the expectation there from both of them is that they make it. So what happens here will show the committee later in the season who has that stronger out of conference, who has that out of conference win.
I love when we have an opportunity to talk about real out of conference games and not hypotheticals. And so this is one of those that provides that.